In the year 336 BCE, the world witnessed an extraordinary moment that would shift the course of history. A young man, only 20 years old, stepped forward to claim the throne of Macedonia. His name was Alexander, son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias. Few could imagine that this young ruler, still in the early bloom of youth, would soon rise to become one of the greatest commanders the world has ever known. Yet, before the victories, before the conquered lands, before his name echoed across continents, Alexander first had to survive the storm awaiting him at home. He was not a child raised in softness. From birth, Alexander lived in the palace at Pella, surrounded by warriors, generals, and political ambition. His father, King Philip II, was a master strategist who turned Macedonia from a small kingdom into the most powerful force in Greece. Under Philip's command, soldiers trained relentlessly, new formations were invented, and armies across Greece trembled at Macedonian discipline. Beside this powerful king stood Olympias, a fierce and influential queen who fed her son stories of destiny and greatness. She believed he was born for more than power. He was born for immortality. Some stories even say she claimed he descended from heroes and gods. True or not, such ideas shaped Alexander's young mind. He grew up believing there was no boundary too high, no horizon too distant, and no enemy too strong. As a child, he trained like a warrior. His days were filled with riding horses, throwing spears, and practicing swordsmanship. But Alexander's mind was sharpened as much as his body. His father understood that to rule the world, one must master thought as well as battle, so he chose the greatest teacher of the age, Aristotle. Under the philosopher's guidance, Alexander studied knowledge, ethics, science, geography, and the lessons of great rulers. He learned that power meant responsibility. He learned that cultures beyond Greece had their own value. He learned to think not only as a warrior, but as a king. This education planted the idea that the world was vast, filled with wonders waiting to be discovered and lands waiting to be united. When Alexander was still a boy, an event revealed the depth of his courage and insight. A magnificent but wild horse was brought to the Macedonian court. No rider could tame it. The horse reared, kicked, and refused every hand. Even experienced soldiers gave up in frustration. Alexander watched closely. He noticed something others did not. The animal was not wild. It was frightened by its own shadow. Calmly, he approached the horse, turned it toward the sun so the shadow fell behind, spoke softly, and mounted it. The horse accepted him. The court froze, astonished. His father looked at him and declared, "My son, seek a kingdom worthy of you, for Macedonia is too small." The horse, named Bucephalus, would become his loyal companion in every battle, a symbol of courage and trust. Then everything changed in an instant. In 336 BCE, during a grand celebration, King Philip II was assassinated. The kingdom erupted in unrest. Enemies inside and outside Macedonia believed the moment had finally come to break the kingdom apart. A youth now sat on the throne. Many expected him to fail. Some nobles whispered of rebellion. Greek city-states, long resentful of Macedonian dominance, sharpened their weapons and planned to revolt. Alexander, barely 20, was suddenly responsible for holding a kingdom together. But there was no hesitation. He moved with speed and purpose. First, he secured his power at home, eliminating those who dared to challenge him. He secured loyalty from the army and honored the memory of his father. Then, without waiting for the storm to grow, he marched north and south to crush rebellion before it could spread. In the north, tribes and rival leaders believed the young king would falter. Instead, Alexander crossed harsh terrain, defeated them swiftly, and pushed farther than they expected any king would dare. His movements were fast, precise, and fearless. Stories of his determination spread. Enemies felt fear. Allies felt confidence. But his greatest test was yet to come. In Greece, the proud city of Thebes rose in rebellion. The Thebans believed Alexander was too young, too inexperienced, and too fragile to respond. They saw an opportunity to restore Greek independence. Alexander marched toward them with a speed that stunned the ancient world. Before Thebes even understood the danger, he was outside their gates. He offered peace if they surrendered. They refused. They expected Athens or Sparta to join them. They underestimated him. Alexander gave a final chance for surrender. When it was rejected, he unleashed the full force of the Macedonian army. The battle was fierce and swift. Macedonian phalanxes advanced like a living wall, shields locked, spears thrusting. Cavalry charged from both flanks like thunder. Arrows rained from above. Alexander fought at the front, fearless, driving his men forward. Thebes fought bravely, but they had never faced a general like this. When the city fell, Alexander made a decision that shocked the world. Thebes was destroyed, its people killed or enslaved. The world now understood. This young king was not to be tested. Across Greece, silence followed. Athens surrendered without a fight. Sparta, usually defiant, did not challenge him. In one bold move, Alexander united Greece under his command. The message was clear. Macedonian rule stood firm, and Alexander was a force greater than his father. Now, with Greece secure behind him, he could turn to the vision he carried since childhood, the conquest of the Persian Empire. But before leaving, he made a symbolic journey. He traveled to the ancient city of Troy, the legendary battlefield of Achilles, the hero he admired. There, he offered sacrifices, honored the gods, and paid tribute to the spirit of Achilles. In his heart, Alexander believed he was the successor of great warriors, destined to carve his name into eternity. After Troy, he prepared his army, a force of around 40,000 men, disciplined, loyal, and trained for greatness. Infantry, cavalry, archers, engineers, and elite units stood ready. They did not follow him because he was king. They followed because he had proven himself worthy of command. Alexander mounted Bucephalus, raised his spear, and led his men across the Hellespont into Asia. As he stepped onto Persian soil, he cast his spear into the land and declared it was his by right of conquest. Ahead lay the first challenge of his world-conquering journey, the Battle of the Granicus, his first confrontation with the mighty Persian Empire. But that moment, the crossing into Asia, marked the beginning of a campaign unlike anything seen before. He did not march simply for power or wealth. He marched for destiny. Looking back at those early years, it becomes clear why the world remembers Alexander not as a boy who inherited a kingdom, but as a man who earned an empire. He faced threats that would have broken lesser leaders. He united a divided land. He punished rebellion with decisive force. He built loyalty through courage and vision. Every step prepared him for the mission ahead. His rise was not luck. It was the outcome of discipline, intelligence, and relentless determination. And so, with Greece behind him, allies secured, enemies silenced, and the greatest army of his age by his side, Alexander set forth to carve his name into history. The young king who once tamed a wild horse was now ready to tame kingdoms. The prince who studied wisdom now sought to shape the world. The commander who crushed Thebes now turned toward Persia, a vast empire that believed itself invincible. What followed would reshape continents and echo across time, but this was only the beginning. Before he would conquer Egypt, before he would march into India, before his empire stretched from Greece to the edge of the known world, Alexander first had to win his first battle against Persia. A battle that would prove to his men, to his enemies, and to history that the world was now moving under the command of a new force. With fire in his spirit and ambition as wide as the sky, Alexander marched east, ready to fulfill a destiny that would make him immortal.